2015 Z06 is perhaps the most hotly anticipated Corvette in decades. We've seen the incredible performance Chevy can extract from a near 4,000-pound Z28 muscle car, and the C7 Corvette Stingray is, in all books, absolutely astonishing. So it's fair to say then that the expectations for the new Z06 are pretty immense, and it begs the question, could this be the best Corvette ever made?
On paper, it might just be. This thing has 650 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque from a supercharged V8. That means it does 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds and does the quarter mile in 10.9. But to find out if this thing is more than just numbers, we've had to come to a racetrack, and that's the Road Atlanta Raceway, where we're going to give it an absolute thrashing. And then we're going to take it on the streets and see if it's a little bit more refined as well.
First thing you notice is this thing is fast, 130 mile an hour already, 140, coming up to 150 through a hard right-hand bend. Yes, immediately you can tell that this Corvette is rather special. Its speed, straight out of the box, makes the C7 Stingray feel, well, like you're racing a Welsh pony in the Kentucky Derby. It's just a whole new realm of performance. The downforce level is absolutely mesmerizing. Stage 3 downforce that includes the front splitter, the rear wing, that gives 500 pounds roughly of downforce at maximum speed. Fortunately, the Z06 can be optioned with carbon ceramic brakes to help shed that speed, and mixed with the high downforce, they are fantastic. Steel stoppers, well, they're good, but again, if you're going on track, you've got to be on the carbon ceramics. The 2015 Z06 debuts Chevy's new 8-speed automatic transmission, a gearbox it claims can compete with anything Germany has to offer. And at times it can, and it does so with a lovely evocative snap. But the speed and aggressiveness of those shifts vary based on steering rate, meaning sometimes the changes aren't quite as quick as they could be. But let's be honest, the automatic probably isn't the transmission you'd buy anyway. Incredible to have a manual in a 650 horsepower car. As much as I like to heel and toe myself, I'm also really enjoying the rev matching feature. It does it better than you could do it. I don't care who you are, this car will do it better. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, which is pretty incredible. We're not talking about an all-wheel drive Audi R8. We're talking about a rear-wheel drive front-engine Corvette. What's more, the price tag on the Z06 won't look much like an Audi R8's either, or a McLaren. It will in fact read just $79,000, with race car-like Stage 3 Aero package arriving for $89,000. $89,000 for a car that may very well beat a Ferrari 458 Italia. It is that good, this car is absolutely phenomenal. Steering ratio is quite quick. Feels very nimble in your hands. At first, almost too nimble, a little disconcerting. It's so fast. The response of the engine is very linear. You have this massive horsepower, but you also have torque that feels like it comes in very low. And now we're coming through this corner, 3,000 RPM, and I get back on it, and it really goes. And even this one, this is a tight right-hander, and I'm keeping it in 3rd gear, and we're starting 2,500 revs, and it accelerates quite well. And it really keeps going. It revs all the way up to 6,500. You can keep it going really fast, up to 4th, into 5th, 150 mile an hour. Now we're turning right downhill. Hard braking zone from 155 mile an hour. This car is an absolute animal. It also makes you feel like an utter hero. Only beyond 90% of the car's capability, its neutral balance begins to shift minutely and somewhat unpredictably mid-corner. There's a sense that clever things are happening to allow you to drive this fast, and these subtle changes in handling do affect your confidence when pushing it that final 10%.
Well, it started to rain, so we've had to come in a little bit earlier than I would have liked. But despite that, this car has just blown me away. I mean, the handling is absolutely unbelievable, and the power, it's hard to explain, but this thing is so fast. It's beyond Ferrari fast, it's beyond McLaren fast, it's absolutely crazy. Getting to 90% of its capability is really quite easy. You get in and the car feels comfortable and easy to drive. But that last 10%, well, that was really quite tricky, and I think it's partly because there's a lot of technology that's allowing this car to go the speed that it does. And perhaps that technology doesn't quite add up with the raw, brutish characteristics that it is driving a Corvette.
This left me confused, albeit no less impressed. See, the electronic differential talks to the magnetic ride suspension. That then communicates to the power steering, which in turn talks back to the suspension and then back to the differential. It's one big circular flow of information, and the settings vary, for example, with each degree of steering lock or percentage of throttle, or each bump in the road.
There's all these variables going on all the time, and you get this vague sense of these things happening, and they change from corner to corner, lap to lap. And on the racetrack, part of that spoils the experience just a little bit. I'm not sure that the engineers have quite got it to mesh seamlessly with this brutish character that is the Corvette.
Having said that, blending the clever technology with such an analog car may need nothing more than a few minor tweaks to the software. In fact, the day before I drove the car, the dampers received a new setup based on some engineers' findings at the Nürburgring, so the car at this point is still evolving.
On the roads, however, it's all starting to make sense, because this car handles itself perfectly. It's constantly adapting to the road surface. This is where that technological refinement comes in, because it allows you to do this. It allows you to drive on a relatively bumpy stretch of country road in utter comfort, going incredibly fast and feel absolutely under control. Few cars can make you smile like this.
But when you decide you want a bit of fun, boy does it respond.
Listen to the noise! You can only get to full throttle for about a second before you got to get back on the brake. That's the nature of these cars today. They are too powerful for the road. And yes, when are you ever going to use that power? But I don't know. I love having it. I really do. Honestly, I don't want to give this thing back.
So, is this the best Corvette ever made? Well, that's just too subjective a question, but let me say this. It is most definitely the best Corvette that I've ever driven. It's phenomenal on the track, and yet it's even better on the street. But what about in a deserted parking lot? Yes, I think you know what's coming here, so cue the tyre smoke.